Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 17th, 2009 meeting of the Dover Area School Board. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Benko, could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Deschaux?
Here.
Mr. DeLauder?
Here.
Mr. Eifert?
Here.
Mr. Emig?
Here.
Mrs. Herman? Mrs. Maley?
Here.
Mr. Rawhauser?
Here.
8 members are present.
Thank you. First up, we have our communications and our student board representative report. Gigi.
In the elementary report, the elementary buildings have completed the fall benchmark and diagnostic assessments. These assessments are used to drive instruction and focus on areas for growth and enrichment. Picture days are occurring at each of the elementary buildings. All elementary schools had a PBIS assembly to kick off to review proud expectations and rewards. All elementary schools had a great start to the school year and well-attended back-to-school nights. The elementary buildings have been invited to have students and families participate in the Dover Homecoming Parade on October 2nd. In the secondary report, once again, the family and consumer science students at Dover Intermediate and Dover High School earned an unprecedented number of ribbons at the York Fair, 51 ribbons, including 2 junior high best of class. Dover Intermediate and Dover High School celebrated Custodian Appreciation Day on Friday, September 13th, with food and fellowship to thank our custodians for all their hard work. Dover Intermediate School Student Council is busy planning events for the 2019-2020 school year. Starting with monthly bus driver appreciation gifts, Student Council will join the high school DECA community giving project to Ice Out ALS and will be well represented in the Dover Homecoming Parade. The DAIS Student Council has planned the fall dance for November 1st and our 8th grade semi-formal dance for February 21st. The high school held its annual community night on August 21st. Parents visited their children's classes, enjoyed the marching band's performance, and met the fall sports teams. High school students' pictures were taken on September 3rd. DECA held its ALS fundraising kickoff assembly on Friday, September 13th. The annual district-wide coin drive is being held from Monday, September 15th to Friday, September 27th. September 20th's football game will support DECA's ALS cause. The DECA is selling t-shirts to be worn to the football game with the theme Ice Out ALS. On October 1st, from 4 to 6 p.m., Bravinos will donate a portion of the profits earned to ALS fundraiser. 13 high school students participated with LIBE's Olympic Day on September 13th. The high school students greeted the students as they entered school and helped with the Olympic activities. Freshmen and new students learned about the various high school clubs and organizations by visiting the organizational fair during Midday Academy. 10th and 12th grade students participated in the PACE survey. The Adopt a Classroom organization will visit Libe Elementary on Tuesday, September 24th, to work with students during their midday activities. Student Council is actively preparing for the homecoming parade, football game, and dance. In athletics, our Friday, September 20th football game with Eastern York will be band night. Homecoming game will be Friday, October 4th versus York Suburban.
Thank you, Gigi. Any questions for Gigi tonight? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have our presentations and celebrations. The first is a Shiloh American Legion donation to the Dover Eagle Foundation.
Good evening. My name is Brad Jacobs. I sort of date myself. I'm a graduate of Dover, 1962. If you start counting your fingers, you might know how old I am. I appreciate you allowing us to be here to make this presentation. Back in January of 2018, I wrote the school board directors of my idea of having a Veterans Memorial for the graduates or alumni. And just let me add something to that. I had someone email me about their father left in 10th grade to go to World War II, lied about his age, got into service. As far as the committee is concerned, he's an alumni. He was in Dover, and we consider him an alumni for this project. so his family could put a brick there in honor or in memory of him. So anyways, I wrote you about my idea. You blessed that idea when you approved the construction of the new high school, and we greatly appreciate that. I did a little bit of fundraising on my own. Some of the organizations I belong to, a couple months ago, we had the Hawks Club from Pleasureville here, and they made a donation of $5,000. Well, I know a couple of these guys sitting behind me from the Shiloh American Legion. And Mr. Kraus, I spoke to him, and I spoke to Mr. Gettle one evening and gave them our press release from October of last year. And they accepted my suggestion, and we're here to present another $5,000 to the Eagle Foundation for the project. So I'm going to introduce these, and I want to thank these guys. These are all patriots. Al Gettle is the commander of Post 791 in Shiloh. Phil Kraus is the vice commander. Richard Arnett is a historian, and Justin Shavers, sergeant at arms. So if we can have Bradley bring the check up here, and we're going to do a quick presentation. Do we have someone from the Eagle Foundation here? We were expecting to have a representative, because all these funds are going through the 501c3.
I will accept it on behalf of
Don't go shopping tonight.
I'll let you light up. All right, are we ready? Great, thank you so much.
Now, you know, if the historian wants to take a picture.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
I gave all of you the latest rendition, and that's 99.9% what it's going to look like front and back, except the some of the script, the quotes on there might be a little bit different or something like that. And we're not using the Dover Eagle mascot, because mascots change over time. So we're going to use the Eagle, the American Eagle.
And are the bricks only for people who have graduated or were part of
Alumni.
Dover? So you couldn't get a brick for another family memory in
staff,
memory of
and
them?
staff that are part of the school district.
Okay. So like if I would want to get a brick for an uncle or something?
Went to Dover.
No.
Went to Dover, no.
Okay, has to,
No, it's
okay,
just for
gotcha,
Dover.
okay.
Oh, yeah, I have one. That's not out of focus.
Press it down Parkway.
Yeah, I am.
Do another one.
Wonderful, that is a wonderful city.
All right, thank you, guys. We will be meeting, the committee's going to be meeting Frank Dittenhafer of Murphy Dittenhafer, who is doing all the design work. Thanks, guys. See, thank you. We will be meeting with the contractors on the project on September the 24th to give them the construction plans and to solicit their participation, whether it's cash, gift in kind, whatever. But we want to talk to them and see what they will offer to us. Once we know that where they're at, we will have a capital campaign. There's a lot of American Legions, there's a lot of Veterans Foreign Wars, a lot of organizations that we will be in contact with once we know, when we get through the contractors and see where we stand. Chuck told me tonight of some ideas. The craft sale, I think there's a big craft sale in the district, in the school building. Maybe we'll have a stand there, and by then we should have a flyer prepared that someone could take with them and fill in their identification, what they want on a brick, because then we should know, hopefully the brick up in Central Dauphin, I think it was like $150. I think that's what we paid at the Vietnam Memorial too at the York Expo Center. And then we'll have maybe a larger brick if someone had more names or more of a saying or a quote on it. So, but hopefully, we anticipate dedication November 14th of 2020. Veterans Day falls on I think a Wednesday, 11th, and you have parent-teacher.
Yeah.
So we want to stay away from that. And then Saturday's even better for the Honor Guard and all the veterans in the community to participate. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to. Again, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs.
Brad, thank you to the board.
Okay, next on our presentation list is transition from the intermediate school to the middle school. Mrs. Landis.
Uh-oh.
That was perfect.
That was great.
Good evening. So as we get ready to transition from an intermediate school building to Dover Area Middle School, there's a lot of thought that has gone into the construction and the packing and the organizing. But tonight I wanted to share with you the process that we're putting in place in order to make sure that our sixth grade teachers that are coming up to join us in the middle school feel very much a part of our building and culture, and that once we start together as a middle school, we start together as a family. So last spring, I met with Christina Jacoby, and we came up with a very specific plan to outline how we're going to keep our sixth grade teachers, even though they're in 4 different buildings, connected with not only the building project, but start really kind of integrating them into our culture and our intermediate school family. So we actually, Victoria Grossman, myself, and Christina met with all of the sixth grade teachers back in May 30th. Because by that point in time, we had rolled out the new building project to all of our 7th and 8th grade faculty and staff. And we didn't want the 6th grade teachers to feel left out because they're very much a part of it. So we wanted to make sure as we were rolling out where classrooms are gonna be and how things are gonna be changed and how things are gonna be set up, that we kept our 6th grade teachers right in the loop with that. So that way they really kind of felt like they were part of everything that was going on. So that day we met, we shared the plans that we had currently at the time, we shared the building projects, we shared where their classrooms are gonna be, like totally excited about that. We shared a rough draft of what the schedule might look like, how teams might possibly be set up. Got some feedback, which was very important from the teachers about, what they were thinking as far as instructional times and locations and moving students around the building that we could kind of play into our plans as we continued meeting with the architects. And at that time, we also talked about how we were going to continue to keep them part of the process. So you can flip to the next slide. So I think it's very important that we get a chance to meet with each of not only our 6th grade teachers, but our 7th and 8th grade teachers individually, as well as a whole group. So we started out with a whole group, and then we rolled out our plan where we're going to send out sign-up geniuses, you gotta love them, where teachers can sign up for 15-minute blocks to meet with myself and Christina and just share what they are excited about, what they might be concerned about, what their instructional love is, because when they're moving up, they have some opportunities to be able to look at, do I want to be a math teacher? Do I want to be social studies? Do I want to be science? Where is my love? Where's my content love? Where am I looking at maybe being? At the same time, we wanted to offer that to 7th and 8th grade teachers because there may be some opportunities for 7th and 8th grade teachers to make changes depending on what they love as we kind of move through this entire process together. So we thought if we were offering it to 6th, let's offer it to 7th and 8th so everybody has an opportunity to feel like they had a time where they could personally one-on-one kind of share, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm worried about, this is what I'd love to do. So that their thoughts are very much an important part of the process. So we are going to be scheduling these one-on-one 15-minute interviews in October and November, and it's optional. The teachers don't have to, but if they want to come and sit and chat, we'll be more than happy to sit and chat with them. But we didn't want it to stop there. So we have a whole school year ahead of us. And we want to make sure that throughout the entire school year, we continue to keep all of our sixth grade teachers in the loop, so that they're very much a major part of the process as we go through. And I can't stress enough that they feel part of the culture. None of us actually, and at the IS, we don't want them to feel like the newbies. We want them to feel like they've always been part of us as we enter the new school together, very much as a family to support our kiddos. So 4 times throughout the year, we are going to be making trips down to each individual elementary school to meet with the sixth grade teachers. So in October, we're going to roll out our PBIS and our We've Got Your Back plan. I think this is going to be really important because our sixth grade teachers will see the consistencies between the elementary plan, our plan, and the high school plan. I think it'll make them really feel comfortable that, okay, it's not going to be totally new. I get this. I know how this works. The proud, we're there. We're in a good place. And so we are going to each individual elementary school on a different date in October to sit down and roll out that plan. And then on that first October date, I'll be bringing Amanda Brady with me, who's our Dean of Students. So they'll get to meet a face along with myself as we roll out the plan. In November, we're going to be going out to each of the elementary schools and we're going to talk about how does our team and department schedule work? When do you get to meet with teams, student concern teams, departments? How do conferences work at the Dover Area Middle School as we roll in, so that as we kind of go through the year, our sixth grade teachers really start to then feel like, okay, I get this. I understand how we do this. It's not that different. I'm feeling really comfortable with it. When we roll out team and department schedules, I'm actually going to bring some department chairs with me, so they start to see some additional faces. So in October, they'll meet Amanda Brady, Dean of Students. In November, they're going to meet Lauren Nolan, who is my math department chair, and Jamie Jackson, who's my ELA department chair. So they'll start to say, okay, this is who I can go to if I need support in these areas, and they put another connection with another face. In February, we're going to roll out again, and then we're going to go over our teacher handbook and our daily schedule, so that, again, they really have all the information they need in order to realize how our day-to-day activities run, to really be immersed in part of our culture and our expectations. And for this meeting, I'll be bringing Dave Lugar, who's our assistant principal, with me, so that they can again meet another face. So that when we start together, because the beginning of next school year is going to be a little bit crazy. So when we start together in the new building, and I've opened multiple new buildings in the district, we'll probably be starting together by sweeping hallways and picking up nuts and bolts and screws from the parking lot so that we are prepared when the kiddos come the first day. So when we all meet each other sweeping the hallways and washing down the walls, we'll be able to at least identify who is where and what, and really kind of feel part of it. And then in March of 2020, I already have Mr. Nelson booked. We are going to be going down to each of the individual sixth grade, and we're going to talk about our moving plans. And there are very specific moving plans in place. The teachers actually have already seen part of the moving plans. I was going to put a little clip in here, but I don't want to take time. But Mr. Nelson, he's pretty good on the big screen, and he even taught us how to use the tape gun in his video on the 2019-2020 moving plans. So, but they'll have a chance then to talk to myself and Mr. Nelson about, okay, really, where is it going to get stored? Because, as teachers, we love our stuff. So, we need to make sure that our stuff is going to be safe, and we know our stuff is going to make it to our room. So they'll have opportunities then to meet. And then by this point in March, sixth grade has been really caught up to exactly where we are seventh and eighth. So I know we're going to hit some bumps. I know it's probably, we're going to really have to pull together as a family as we move into the new building, because it's not going to be ready yet. So we're going to have to really work together, which I think that alone will bring us together as a team. But in the meantime, this entire school year, we're going to be working together in order to make sure that sixth grade doesn't feel left out in the process, and that they feel very much part of Dover Area Middle School as we transition in. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what we're doing in order to make that transition positive. Did anybody have any questions that I can address? I'm excited. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. The sixth grade teachers are, they're nervous, but excited. I think they're looking forward to the opportunity to be content specialists. And the sixth grade does have their own little wing. So they're part of the building, but they're not going to be like a major part. Like they can actually get to all their specials and back up without even being within the 7th and 8th grade part. And the sixth grade teachers were very excited to see that layout.
So in their 15-minute conversations that they're going to be having with you, when they say, hey, this is an area that I'm interested in teaching, are there opportunities for those sixth grade teachers to possibly move up to the 7th and 8th or 7th and 8th to move down? I mean, is all of that open for
Yeah.
discussion?
Mhm.
Okay.
It also depends on their clearance. It depends on their,
Oh,
Certification.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
certification. So
'Cause-
that's some of what we have to, when we sit down with them, we're gonna have all of that information so we can have that conversation.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Landis. Okay, we are now at our first public comment period. This is for 3 minutes. If you have anything you'd like to comment on tonight's agenda, please come to the microphones and state your name and address for the record. Okay, with that, we'll move on to board president's communication. I do have a few things to note. We did have an executive session prior to tonight's meeting, so thank you for your patience while we ran a little behind. DAEA representatives were not available to meet with us in our executive session tonight, so item 502, which was originally on the agenda as a grievance vote, has been removed from tonight's agenda. We also did have an independent study request on the agenda. That was originally item 902. That has been pulled from the consent agenda and moved to a separate vote later on in the agenda at the request of Mr. DeLauder, because this does impact his daughter. And then the land lease agreement, item 929, has been modified. That is for the rental of the property that we own out near North Salem for it to be farmed. And we are removing the item 4C, which was the requirement for the renter to leave the straw from the grain crop on the fields after harvest. So with that, I do not have anything else under Board President's communications. So we will move on to the PSBA officer elections. This is the time of this year when we elect the new PSBA officers. At this time, I would entertain a motion to elect the following PSBA officers. For a one-year term, President-elect Art Levinowitz, Upper Dublin School District, and Vice President David Hine, Parkland School District. For a 3-year term at large, we have Julie Preston from Northern Tioga School District. And then for a 2-year term, we have a Section 1 advisor, Sabrina Backer from Franklin School District. Section 3 advisor, Ron Cole from Sarah Area School District. Section 5 advisor, Marcia Pleta from Washington School District. And Section 7 advisor, Tricia Steiner from Derry Township School District. We also have the election of PSBA Insurance Trust trustees. These are 2 seats, Kathy Swope and Mark Miller. And then we have for PSBA trustees 3 seats, and they would be Beth Ann Ziegler, Crystal Mance, and Jamie Lynn Zermofsky. So I would entertain a motion to elect those individuals.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Questions or discussion? Mrs. Benko? The motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve minutes of the August 13th, 2019 board meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Mrs. Benko? The motion carries. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the August 15th, 2019 board planning meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and lots of seconds. Any questions or discussion? Mrs. Benko? The motion carries. Okay. Now we'll move on to the policy committee report with Mrs. Kroom.
So the policy committee met on September 10th, again, as we move through all of our policies to update them. Two policies are going on to committee on Thursday night. Number one, the 103.1 non-discrimination, qualified students with disabilities. Kathy Geyer has done a great job looking at this, and she is taking that to the curriculum committee on Thursday night for discussion, and that will come to the board in October. The other policy that is going to committee, to the Human and Fiscal Committee on Thursday, is Policy 104, non-discrimination, discriminatory harassment, employment practices. So Christina Jacoby has been working very hard on that. The key, we pretty much, when it comes to non-discrimination policies, we look at them, but they're PSBA's policies, and we pretty much stick to them because they are very legal. The big thing with this one is we are adding gender identity in the list of protected classes that are listed in the policy. So that will go also to committee on Thursday night. Tonight, you are approving a number of policies that have cleared the policy committee. Policy 142, migrant students. This is just an update, no changes to this. It just was reviewed and it is being approved as is. Policy 143 and 144, standards for persistently dangerous school and standards for victims of violent crime. Our old policy cited No Child Left Behind in it, NCLB. The new policy cites Every Student Succeeds ESSA. So that's the big change for those policies. Policy 205, postgraduate students, there are no changes with that, just being updated. And policy 206, assignment in a district, that is also just updated, no changes. PSBA suggests we delete policy 211, which is student accident insurance. That is, a policy is being deleted, and student accident insurance is being put into policy 123, interscholastic athletics. So that's where that is covered. So that's just kind of a rundown of the policies you are voting on tonight, you are seeing on Thursday at committee.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Kroom? Okay, if not, we'll move on now to the consent agenda. We have a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight, so first I will entertain a motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda.
No move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussions? At this point, Mrs. Kroom, if you could just touch on the flexible instruction days proposal so that the public could hear that.
Sure. We did apply to the state to be approved to do flexible instructional days. It has to be approved by the board, and then that will go on to PDE. We should hear something by the end of September if we are in the right direction with our application, by November 1st if we're accepted. The gist of our application are for flexible instructional days to be used as snow days, and in the application I was very specific that these would be for days that were obviously coming our way. So this is not something that can be called last minute when you wake up in the morning and it's icy and we cancel. We can't use it for that. But if that storm is down the road and we can see it and it's coming, we can put a plan into action, and we can at least get everyone ready for the possibility. In the plan, I placed that grades K to 6 would be all paper pencil work that teachers would have to provide students before that day. Grades 7 to 12 would be either iPad work or paperwork, depending on the teacher, depending on the student. I want to remind you, the beauty of the iPads is that teachers can have students download documents on the iPad prior to leaving school, and they can work on those documents offline at home. So that's a very good thing. You had to also talk about how you will accommodate special needs students, how you accommodate absent students the day before. This will be our first try at this, and we will need to be extremely flexible with students and teachers. In the application, we stated that teachers would be online from 8 to 11, I think, and then 12 to 3, something like that. I'm not sure if I have my time right. And that constitutes the Teacher's Day and available by email for the students. Again, we have to be very flexible. We will have young kids in daycare who won't have people help them do the work, so we are going to have to be flexible as we go into this. So I'm excited to see if we get accepted. As I said, if we can save 1 or 2 days, Mr. Emig has assured us that we're going to need it because we're going to have lots of snow this winter. It'll be worth it. So I'll keep you posted and see how we make out. A couple other things on tonight's agenda. I just would like to point out a SAP letter of agreement with True North. That is a yearly agreement. That is for our SAP liaison. We also have our yearly agreement with probation, reminding everyone that our probation officer is housed in our high school, which is wonderful. 931, the budget timeline. And all of the administrators out there know all about this because they've already accepted their budget meetings with us. So it's the budget timeline. We're trying to move it up about a month because of the building the building project. And OVR, we are asking the school board to support the district as becoming an OVR partner and allow our special needs students to have jobs in the district. We do get reimbursed for their wages. We do not get reimbursed for FICA, but we do believe that giving some job experiences to some of our special needs students might actually help us down the road with our own permanent positions because we know our kids do a good job. And then finally, you are accepting the next step of Libes playground equipment donation. They have, I think I sent you a picture last week. It's a really cute piece. So you are accepting the donation tonight. And is there any other questions on anything else on the agenda?
I just wanted to note under the retirements that we do have 2 individuals that will be retiring from the district effective in January. And between those 2 individuals, they have 65 years of service with the district, which is incredible. Brian Smith, a custodian at Libe Elementary, has 40 years with the district. And Deb Milford, who spent a lot of time at Libe as a secretary there, has moved up to the admin building in the previous few years here, and she has 25 years. So we wanted to recognize them, and we'll do more for them come January at that point. So, anybody else have anything?
From our community who might be watching this, I was wondering if we could maybe give an update on our reserve balances in terms of some of the reserves that are currently sitting there that are sort of temporary by design in terms of like the middle school renovation and high school construction projects specifically.
Okay, so in our capital projects fund, there's a couple different buckets. We have capital projects reserved for general. We have capital reserved for construction, and then we have some capital funds reserved for our high school project and our middle school project. So right now, sitting in the capital reserve for general, we have approximately 10.7, and then capital reserve for construction, there's about 2.5 million. So between those two, that's about 13.2 million that's sitting out there. And if you'll remember in some of our budget discussions, we will be utilizing some of that money for transferring over to back to our general fund that was originally transferred from our general fund to our capital projects fund to help fund the construction of the high school and the renovations to the middle school. So in the upcoming years, if you remember in our millage studies, we had to phase in some of our millage, and what that it contains some of the district using cash each year. So each year we will budget to move some of that back into our general fund to fund the bond payments so we can keep the millage rates equal for the next 10 years for or 7 years for the taxpayers. So that's about 13.2 million. Of that, we'll use about 6 or 7 of that to fund those bond payments. So then you have there's a 2018 construction fund account out there, and that's the first half of our financing for the high school project. It was about $29 million when we got it in 2018. Right now, that sits at $4.7 million. And then the other half of our financing we got in March of 2019. It was about 38 million. 6.7 million of that was for the middle school project, and 32 million of it was the rest of the funding for the high school. So between those accounts, We have about 56 million altogether in capital reserve funds, but a lot of that sitting there is going to be spent down within the next 2 years. And again, we will be transferring some 6 or 7 million over to our general fund for bond payments to phase in our millage a little easier.
By design. That was all by design. So
Yes.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, Mrs. Benko. And the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to our Curriculum and Comprehensive Planning Committee. This is where we had moved the vote for the independent studies. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the independent study request for credit during the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussions?
I just want to say I will be abstaining from this vote due to my daughter being one of the requests.
Thank you, Mr. DeLauder. And the motion carries. Anything else for Curriculum and Comprehensive Planning tonight?
I think so.
Okay. Capital Project Steering Committee, Mr. Deschaux, did you have anything that you wanted to report on, or we'll move right into the vote for the playground? Okay. This time I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the donation of playground equipment to Live Elementary valued at
Approximately $20,000.
approximately $20,000.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? And the motion carries. Mr. Nelson, is there anything you wanted to report on tonight, or just wait for Thursday's committees? Okay. Dover Eagle Foundation. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but from what I understand, we're moving forward with the continued planning for the fundraising projects, such as some bingo activities, things like that. So a lot happening there. Is there anything else, Mrs. Benko or Mrs. Krim, that you wanted to add on the foundation?
We met on September 4th, and along with the fundraising, we also started to set some guidelines for scholarships for students as we move to set some of those up in the upcoming years. And we also talked about some grant opportunities for teachers and how teachers would go about applying and everything. And only other thing is the next meeting is October 2nd, 2019 at 6 o'clock here in the admin building.
Thank you. Okay, Unity Council report. Mrs. Maley.
Okay, so we met a couple weeks ago, and we were missing quite a few members from what I remember.
We
It was,
were,
it
yeah.
was, yeah, a
We
little
have a
short,
lot.
but hopefully the next one will be better attended. But we still got a lot done. We had a representative from each of the buildings there who kind of gave us an update on what they were doing in their buildings with the staff in terms of their own Unity councils within the buildings. So it was good to hear that, even if it was something on a small scale, people were moving along. And then we broke into our 3 groups, and it's professional development, curriculum and policy,
Culture.
and culture. Okay. And we're broken into the small groups to start talking about, okay, what are our priorities? Kind of where do we need to start? Where do we go from here? And just kind of gathering ideas together for that. So I think overall it was a very productive meeting. Anything else?
No, I think it was a great meeting.
Okay, thank you. York Adams Academy, Mr. Emick.
At our last meeting on August the 27th, they always have a student that they bring in and they talk about how they had happened to come to York Adams Academy. And last month, we were honored that one of our Dover students were there that gave a conversation and brief description of what she's planning to do after she moves on. Currently, as of that night, Dover has 13 students enrolled with one waiting to be enrolled. And out of the 10 school districts in York and out of the 7 school districts in Adams County, we have a percentage of seats filled of 58%. And total graduates to date is 4,082.
Any questions for Mr. Emick? Thank you. York County School of Technology, Mr. DeLauder.
Not a lot happening right now, just a lot of back-to-school activities going on. We do have our meeting next week, so hopefully I'll have a little bit more information on that. As far as the gym, we did get a report back that the DEP approved everything, so it is now, they now have the final go-ahead from the township and everything to begin construction, and hopefully we'll find out a start date next week.
Questions for Mr. DeLauder? Okay, LIU, Mrs. Creeman, Mrs. Benko.
So I'd just like to report the new executive director, Dr. West, has started, and it does seem as if he is taking the LIU in a new direction. So I think that's very good. He is asking his board to do a performance audit, which is something we had asked for, just to really look at their procedures and processes. So I think that will be good for all of us. And they are also looking at their transportation and costs. Kathy Geyer and I have been part of the special ed task force for the IU for about 6 months, and they shared with us last week, when we get billed for students, a lot of times we're not exactly sure, well, we know, no, not all the time, we never know, what is in our costs. So one of the things they're doing is putting some procedures in place where they would more delineate their costs so we would know exactly, specifically what things cost. So that, I think, is a very good step. They're also going to talk a little more about how districts can pick up classes, and we are seriously considering picking up some things next school year. We will be bringing that to you. We think that that will save us some costs and will be better for the district. So hold tight for that, and we'll keep you posted. Okay.
Questions for Mrs. Kroom? Okay, thank you. Next, we have Legislative and York Learning Center with Mr. Rawhauser.
I have nothing for legislation. Our last meeting for the Learning Center was canceled. While I'm at it, I'll make some comments. Last week, there was 2 meetings for the comprehensive planning, one at the Township Building and one at Dover. It was a fair turnout at the Tuesday meeting. I don't know what happened at the Thursday meeting. What I did find out in the 5-year plan, they're trying to put an exit on 83 for Canal Road. Or that's to be done the next 5 years. To bring Canal Road to Dover traffic, connect with South Salem, which ought to make it more interesting in Dover Borough. But that's their plans, and they said Dottie's are holding off on doing, they were gonna do more renovations down there, but they're gonna hold off till they find out if they're gonna be part of the circle or not, or what they're putting in down there. And as far as the Intermediate Avenue extension, everything is looking positive at the moment, moving ahead. Those are the 2 biggest items that I picked up on. There's all kinds of information there. Guess they're thinking about, I don't know if we'll have another meeting in November or not, try and finalize whatever we come up with for the plan. But I was kind of surprised they want to put a exit in for Canal Road. I said, that's just what Dover needs.
Where on Canal will that be?
What?
Where on Canal will that be? Because right now the Susquehanna Trail leads to Canal, the exit.
Well, they want to put an exit in, I don't know, on the expressway for Canal Road. 183.
Mr. Benton actually has some additional information about this, because he's,
Could you please?
yeah.
So the new interchange there on 83 will be right at where 83 crosses Canal. So it'll be actually about 4 miles to 5 miles outside of the township borders going towards Manchester. So it's whenever you cross over Susquehanna Trail, it'll be right there where the overpass is currently, before you get to the new road that takes you back to Starbucks, all right, going into Manchester. So it brings it versus 8 miles from 83 to 5 miles, which also lines up with the township planning that north of, all the land north of Canal Road there that wraps around the borough is also zoned industrial commercial. Okay, all the farmland that's there currently. That was rezoned probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, is that cleared up? Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Rollhauser?
Oh, that's, I know.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Brenton, PSBA.
The House is back in session this week. The Senate comes back next week. And there are some topics that PSBA has been talking about or would like us to keep in the back of our minds as we move through the fall session. The first is charter school reform. Governor Tom Wolf announced plans for a comprehensive charter school reform package intended to address academic performance, accountability, and funding concerns. Part of the plan, PDE set new fees for charter schools to fund the growing cost of administering the charter school law. Starting September 15th, charter schools that request PDE's intervention to resolve a funding dispute with a local school district will be assessed at $15 per redirection payment. Additionally, new cyber charter applicants will be charged a fee of $86,000 for PDE to review the application. That fee will be applied to applications filed on or after January 1st, 2020. Special education funding is another topic. This was first created in 2012 to make recommendations. Let me back up. The Special Education Funding Commission was created in 2012 to make recommendations regarding special ed funding. And I guess they're regrouping and back at it again. Senator Pat Brown, who is the Senate Republican chair of the Appropriations Committee, and Representative Kurt Sonny, who is a Republican from Erie, a House member, and Education Secretary Pedro Rivera are working together on that commission, where they'll review the current special ed funding formula and determine if it meets intended goals. The commission is not going to expand its work to discuss special education funds for charter schools, though. Plans are being made to conduct hearings throughout the state, and PSBA plans on making comments at those legislative hearings. The commission's report is due out by November 30th, 2019, and any proposed changes to the formula would need to be introduced as formal legislation and approved by the General Assembly as a bill. And lastly, another thing that PSBA has on radar is a special advisory committee. A joint state government commission created a study on secondary school start times. So they are expected to release their report by October 18th, and PSBA is represented on that committee. So that's something that we're kind of they're keeping an eye on as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Brenton. Any questions for her? Okay, Dover Industrial Development Committee. Mrs. Herman is not with us tonight. Mr. Benton, did you have anything for that? I know you've attended those with her.
The only thing coming out of that, we had our latest Dover Business Association breakfast at Johnny's there at Sarah's Creamery. It was probably the biggest attendance of the local business communities, and they're still pushing forward. They would like to have that formalized as a regular organization, tax exempt organization by January. So they're moving forward. They do now have officers. They are currently looking for a president. So if anybody's interested.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions for Mr. Benton? Okay, we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Mrs. Kroom.
All right. So Dr. Maloney and I, Jen, could you put that PDF up? Dr. Maloney and I have we've met with Weigelstown, and we have met with, who else we meet with? Dover Elementary PTOs about looking at reconfiguration of the elementary school. We had really nice turnouts, and I wanted to share with you the information that we are sharing with them so you are also in the know of what we're talking to them about. First, when we meet with them, we tell them that this decision is not made, that we are collecting information right now, and that we will present this to the board hopefully in April, and then give lots of time for the board to think about this and for you to hear from parents and teachers so they can give their input. So we really focus on why are we doing this, and the 4 basic reasons are our building demographics, class sizes at each building, all the proposed housing developments, and the philosophy behind the why. So first, the building demographics. Jen, you can go ahead. The building demographics. These are our statistics from last school year. So these are what are going to be included in the Future Ready Index. And if you take a look, I do have the enrollment from last year, and I do put the enrollment next to it from this year, just because I think that comparison is really important. And if you take a look at, we've talked to you about the large number of students enrolling this summer. Well, if you take a look at LIBE, how they ended the year at 494 and started at 513. But here are some of the demographics. Our percent of low income right now, LIBE is coming in economically disadvantaged 53.2. Now Weigelstown doesn't look too bad at 47.4, but I promise you that will change. That will be a different number as we move into the school year. The next one is our special ed numbers percentage in each of the building, where LIBE is the lowest. That's to be expected because there are no program classes there as of now. The male-female numbers are so interesting. Principals, I don't think I've even shared this with you, but if you take a look at LIBE again and look at the difference between boys and girls, or the difference at Dover Elementary between boys and girls, this was last year. So that's just interesting data to share. But the data I really focused with them on was our white population, our black population, and our Hispanic population. If you take a look at Weigelstown on the bottom, last year they ended with 15% population Hispanic students and 5.3% black students. So 20% of their students were and what I'm not including in there, because it is 75, are other, and other are mixing and different kind and all that, but about 75% of only 75% of Weigelstown was white. And if you look at the difference between that and last year's North Salem, at almost 90%. That is a significant difference. So one of the things we are talking to parents about is, you don't want an elementary school that's an outlier. That's not good for the district. That's not good for the kids. So building demographics is something we really focused on. The next thing we talked about is class size. So I shared with them the class size, and where we are right now. We were so happy that kindergarten came in. If you remember, I think it was last year that kindergarten at Weigelstown, floored us last minute. But what's yellow is where we've put the 4th teacher in. And if you take a look at the difference between LIBE in 5th grade at 88 and Dover Elementary at 5th grade and 66. So those are significant numbers and significant differences in class sizes that also give a reason why we should look at putting 2 buildings together, because we could definitely balance that out better. Then the next, I bring with them the map that Jen Benko and I have, the great big map that has all of the building projects, and we show the parents the map, and we show them where all the building projects are. We share with them that while Intermediate Avenue is moving along now, 6 months ago it wasn't. And that quickly it changed. And the developments that are going to go in back there are significant, and there is going to be a lot of kids coming there. So we share that with them and talk to them a little bit about that. And then finally, we share with them just the philosophy, the K2 primary versus 3-5, and just the very difference in social emotional needs of students in a primary versus an intermediate. And the fact that, especially at the 3-5 right now, there's only one third grade math teacher and one fourth grade science teacher. They don't have no one to collaborate with. At least this will allow them to collaborate, and also 3-5, bringing them together. They are, the focus, the PSSA focus and the focus on language arts and math. We can really focus on that, where primary are those readiness skills. We just do believe that the philosophy of having that is something definitely worth taking into consideration. So we share with them what we've done so far, that in the winter you charged us with preparing a reconfiguration plan for the elementary schools, that in the spring we met with all elementary staff to discuss, answer questions, and collect feedback. And we did a survey with them, and we received wonderful feedback from the elementary teachers. They gave us great ideas. We compiled all of that, and we've done a lot. We've taken a lot of their feedback into account as we're moving forward. Dr. Maloney and I this fall are meeting with all PTOs. Next week, I think we meet with North Salem, and I think live is October, early October. And that later this month, September, we are going to be, we'll talk about that. And what have I done? The coffee conversation with the superintendent meetings, there is always at least one person there every meeting that asks about where we are with reconfiguration. And again, we hear the decision's already been made. I'm like, no, it's not. The board doesn't even know. We haven't even presented them anything. So assure them, but we keep them updated. And the updates at the board meetings. I'm trying very hard to keep you updated as we move along, so more and more people are hearing that we're thinking about this. And then finally, what is our plan? Where are we going? Well, we have a pretty big meeting with transportation on the 19th, E&B. Already I've had some preliminary talks with them. Transportation is going to change drastically if we do this, and it's going to add a cost. So I'm anxious to hear more what they have to say. And special education. We have program classes in 3 of our 4 elementary, all different levels. What does that look? So Kathy is pulling all those numbers together, and what does that look like? Once we have met with PTOs and once we have that information, we are going to form a committee. Dr. Maloney and I, administrators, staff, parents, and DAEA representatives we want on this as we move forward to put a plan together. My goal is to update the staff on a regular basis. Again, we tell them right now our thoughts are that it's going to be Dover Elementary 3-5 in Weigelstown. It's sister school at K2, but that's just right now. We might have a whole different decision when we meet with busing, but that formation does work well when you look at our demographics, so that would work well. But that is our original thought, and we have some other ideas. We want to schedule some public information sessions to gather information and present to you and the board in April. And what I would ask is that I'd like the board to vote on this in August, because if we move forward, we have to move. We have to get moving. I'm not going to give you any timelines yet on what we're thinking. But between April and August, I would like to offer parents and teachers the opportunity to come in prior to board meetings to talk to you, because they're going to want to give you their opinion. So I think that's very important that we let people have their say. So that's our tentative plan. And then in August, you will vote, and we will go from there. And then we just ask for questions, feedback, and that's our presentation. So now you know everything they know and pretty much everything we know. That's where we are, and we will keep you posted on that. Any questions on that?
What has been the feedback that you received at these meetings when you do this presentation?
They've been extremely receptive at so far at both of them. We've had a parent or two who are in a different district that is already K2 or 3-5, or the one was K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they all said, there are pros and cons for both, but they like the way their district does it, and they do agree that the smaller elementaries or the less grades are definitely better. We didn't have anyone say anything different, so far so good. Now, again, we were talking about 15 people.
Right.
From what we understand, North Salem might have more, I think. they're moving their meeting somewhere bigger, but that's okay. So yeah, we're just, like we said, we're just giving them the why right now. Why are we doing this and how we're proceeding and the information, and we're going to present it to you, and you're going to make a decision, and we're gonna go from there. So,
Are the PTOs advertising, maybe the building principals can answer this, are they advertising that, hey, at this next PTO meeting, we're gonna be talking about this?
don't know.
Do you know if they're putting it out there to try to get more parents to attend? Because I know a lot of parents, there are regulars, and then there are some that
Right.
come if there are special things being brought up.
I know Chris did. I know
Okay.
Chris did, because I think I saw his email.
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
might be an important.
Yeah, would be important. And we did say to them, we will be back. You know, as we develop, get more information and come up, move closer to a plan, we will come back and get their input and see what they think. We're going to keep them, you know, in the know. All right,
Anything else, Mrs. Kroon?
that's all.
Okay. We'll move on to our miscellaneous period for any other comments or observations from our board members tonight. Does anybody have anything else? I did want to mention the bulletin board there behind Mr. Pratt. We received an email from Lila at the intermediate school that we had 51 students that received awards at the York Fair this year, so that's pretty incredible, and all their names and what they accomplished are up there, and 2 Best in Show awards from the intermediate. So I thought that was great. Anybody else?
And I sent you pictures last week. Pictures.
Okay, we'll move on to our public comment period. This is a 2-minute period for anything on or off the agenda. Anybody? Okay, with that, our future meetings. This Thursday, we have our board committee meetings beginning at 6:00 p.m. and our board planning meeting at 7 p.m. And then on October 15th, we have our regular board meeting beginning at 7. So if there is no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Mrs. Heidler. Mrs. Heidler.